Okay, today we're going to do the first reading in our cell unit, and it's called Discovering Cells. And we have three key questions right off the bat here. What are cells? What is a cell theory? And how do microscopes work? These two first key questions are very, very, very important. And through use, you're going to learn how the microscopes work. So let's go down to Planet Diary. Life at first sight. Antoine van Leeuwenhoek was the first researcher to see bacteria under a microscope. In his journal, he described how he felt after discovering this new and unfamiliar form of life. For me, no more pleasant sight has met my eye than this of so many thousands of living creatures in one small drop of water. So this is a modern view of bacteria similar to those seen by Leeuwenhoek. All right, so let's go down here. What are cells? What do you think a mushroom, a tree, a spider, a bird, and you have in common? All are living things or organisms. Like all organisms, they are made of cells. Cells form the parts of an organism and carry out all of its functions. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function in living things, all living things. Okay, cells are the basic units of structure and function in all living things. So that's the answer to the key question, and that is the definition to what a cell is. Cells and structure. When you describe the structure of an object, you describe what it is made of and how its parts are put together. For example, the structure of a building depends on the way the bricks, steel beams, or other materials are arranged. The structure of living things is determined by the amazing variety of ways its cells are put together. Okay, so here we go. Let's go down to cells and function. An organism's functions are the processes that enable it to live, grow, and reproduce. Those functions include obtaining oxygen, food, and water, and getting rid of waste. Cells are involved in all these functions. For example, cells in your digestive system absorb food. The food provides your body with energy and materials needed for growth. Cells in your lungs help you get oxygen. Your body cells work together, keeping you alive. And for each cell to stay alive, it must carry out many of the same functions as the entire organism. What is the cell theory? Until the 1600s, no one knew cells existed because there was no way to use them. Around 1590, the invention of the first microscope allowed people to look at very small objects. A microscope is an instrument that makes small objects look larger. Over the next 200 years, this new technology revealed cells and led to the development of the cell theory. The cell theory is a widely accepted explanation of the relationship between cells and living things. Seeing cells. English scientist Robert Hooke built his own microscopes and made drawings of what he saw when he looked at the dead bark of certain oak trees. Hooke never knew the importance of what he saw. A few years later, Dutch businessman Antoine van Leeuwenhoek was the first to see living things through his microscope. So figure 2, growth of the cell theory. The theory describes how cells relate to the structure and function of living things. There is Hooke's microscope. In 1663, Robert Hooke used his microscope, zoom out here a little bit, to observe a thin slice of cork. Cork, the bark of the cork oak tree, is made up of cells that are no longer alive. To Hooke, the empty spaces in the cork looked like tiny rectangular rooms. Therefore, Hooke called the empty spaces cells, which means small rooms. Leeuwenhoek's microscope. Leeuwenhoek built microscopes in his spare time. Around 1674, he looked at drops of lake water, scrapings from teeth and gums, and water from rain gutters. Leeuwenhoek was surprised to find a variety of one-celled organisms. He noted that many of them whirled, hopped, or shot through the water like fast fish. He called these moving organisms animalcules, meaning little animals. So there you go, Hooke's drawing of cork. Pretty cool. And there is one of the first microscopes. Pretty neat. All right, so what the cell theory says, and this will be required, boys and girls, that you learn and know by the next end of unit test. Figure 2 highlights people who made key discoveries in the early study of cells. Their work and the work of many others led to the development of the cell theory. The cell theory states the following. All living things are composed of cells. Cells are the basic units of structure and function in living things. All cells are produced from other cells. Living things differ greatly from one another, but all are made of cells. The cell theory holds true for all living things, no matter how big or how small. Because cells are common to all living things, cells can provide clues about the functions that living things perform. And because all cells come from other cells, scientists can study cells to learn about growth and reproduction. So Schleiden, Schwann, and Virchow, 1838, using his own research and the research of others, Matthias Schleiden, and concluded that all plants are made of cells. A few years later, Theodor Schwann reached the same conclusion about animals. In 1855, Rudolf Virchow proposed that new cells are formed only from cells that already exist. All cells come from cells, wrote Virchow. So there you can see animal cells, plant cells. Notice rectangular structure. We will get into why that is the case. And down below here, here's a cell reproducing or dividing. How do microscopes work? The cell theory could not have been developed without microscopes. Some microscopes focus light through lenses to produce a magnified image, and other microscopes use beams of electrons. Both light microscopes and electron microscopes do the same job in different ways. For a microscope to be useful, it must combine two important properties: magnification and resolution. Magnification in lenses. Have you ever looked at something through spilled drops of water? If so, did the object appear larger? Magnification is a condition of things appearing larger than they are. Looking through a magnifying glass has the same result. A magnifying glass consists of a convex lens, which has a center that is thicker than its edges. When light passes through a convex lens and into your eyes, the image you see is magnified. Magnification changes how you see objects and reveals details that you may have not have known were there, shown in Figure 3. Magnification with a compound microscope. Figure 4 shows a microscope that is similar to one you may use in your classroom. This type of instrument, called a compound microscope, magnifies the image using two lenses at once. One lens is fixed in the eyepiece. A second lens is chosen from a group of 2 or 3 lenses on the revolving nosepiece. Each of these lenses has a different magnifying power. By turning the nosepiece, you can select the lens you want. A glass slide on the stage holds the object to be viewed. A compound microscope can magnify an object more than a single lens can. Light from a lamp or reflecting off a mirror passes through the object on the slide, the lower lens, and then the lens in the eyepiece. The total magnification of the object equals the magnifications of the two lenses multiplied together. For example, suppose the lower lens magnifies the object 10 times. The eyepiece lens also magnifies the object 10 times. The total magnification of the microscope is 10 times 10, or 100 times, which is written as 100x. And we will go over more about this later. You will definitely see this again. And these are very similar to our microscopes, actually. You have the eyepiece, revolving nose piece that has the different power lenses. You have your stage clips, which is right here. They actually don't have those diagrammed. You have your light rays that come up through the light source. This black part here is the stage. You have your coarse focus and your fine focus in the knobs here. And when we get out the microscopes and use them, you will learn more about these. Measuring objects. When you see objects through a microscope, they look larger than they are. How do you know their true size? One way is to use a metric ruler to measure the size of a circular field in millimeters as you see it through the microscope. Then you can estimate the size of the object you see by comparing it to the width of the field. To create a useful image, a microscope must help you see the details of the object's structure clearly. The degree to which two separate structures that are close together can be distinguished is called resolution. Better resolution shows more detail. For example, the colors of a newspaper photograph may appear to your eye to be solid patches of color. However, if you look at the colors through a microscope, you will see individual dots. You see the dots not only because they are magnified, but also because the microscope improves resolution. In general, for light microscopes, resolution improves as magnification increases. Good resolution is shown in Figure 5, makes it easier to study cells. Electron microscope. The microscopes used by Hooke, Leeuwenhoek, and early researchers were all light microscopes. Since the 1930s, scientists have developed several types of electron microscopes. Electron microscopes use a beam of electrons instead of light to produce a magnified image. Electrons are tiny particles that are smaller than atoms. By using electron microscopes, scientists can obtain pictures of objects that are too small to be seen with light microscopes. Electron microscopes allow higher magnification and better resolution than light microscopes. Okay, boys and girls, that's the end of the reading. I'm going to go back up here and definitely touch on some things real quick. Cell theory. We must know that. All living things are composed of cells. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function in living things, and all cells are produced from other cells. Very important. And you must also learn what the definition of cell is. Cells, and we've had this before, so it should be nothing that new. Cells are the basic units of structure and function in living things. All right, boys and girls, have a great rest of your day. Take care.